Thank you very much, Campbell. Campbell's also got responsibility at 6 Degrees for new product introduction, which I find a frightening thought. I'm waiting for that Monday morning meeting when he comes in with his business model for self-driving cars or pills that can find him when he's falling off the ski slopes. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the company. You've heard quite a lot about what's happening in the market. This is what you do know about us. That bit's not rocket science. Now this is the next bit. But I wanted to tell you perhaps a few things that you don't know about us. So at the moment, the company's turning over just over £50 million, which makes us of a decent size, but it's not one of the biggest players in the market. And this next bit, we always on whether to include this. We're making about £13 million profit at the moment. And some people say, I'm not sure you should be telling our customers how much profit we're making. And actually, I think we should, because it's not something that we should be embarrassed about. That we're a successful company. We heard earlier from Joe in terms of a little bit of their financials. 6 Degrees is a company that is making money. It is growing. What that means, that we're making money, means that we can invest in infrastructure, we can invest in people. One of our competitors, really good company actually on the networking side, recently acquired another company. They had 110 people in that company. Within 4 weeks, 60 of them were gone, because it's a business model that is predicated on taking cost out, and that cost mainly comes out in the form of people. We've put this business together trying to get to a level of profitability, a profit of GP performance, that means that we're not under those same pressures to take cost out. So I'm not embarrassed about the fact that we're making money. I think it's good for our people in the business, and I think it's good for you as customers and as partners, because you know that we're still going to be here in years to come. We're still going to be investing in our company. We've got 3,000 customers, and the sheer number of customers isn't a KPI for us. I've got no ambitions to have the largest number of customers in our particular space. I was speaking at an event recently, at a finance event, and the chairman of a web hosting company was sitting at the same event, and he said in front of everyone, I've got 1 million customers, got 1 million business customers, now business in inverted commas, I think. That would frighten the life out of me. The idea of having 1 million customers where you've got to provide a level of customer care, customer service, interaction with those customers. Now, clearly, his model in web hosting is about automation. It's about going online, as Campbell talked earlier, in a different environment with your credit card, buying something, and there's no interaction with the customers. That's not where we are. 3,000 customers is a decent number, but I've got no ambition to see that reach 10,000, 20,000. We're very focused on the mid-market. Customers who are spending a few £1,000s per month. That way we can invest the resources, the time, the effort, the energy, the planning and the design that those sorts of customers need. I don't know whether you've got any idea how many staff we've got, but I thought you just might find it interesting to get a feel for the size of the company. We've got about 200 staff at the moment. As I said, we haven't been taking costs out of the business. In fact, we haven't made anybody redundant since we set 6 Degrees up at the beginning of last year. Further to that, we've recruited 70 new heads. We had to hire people. We had to hire a person just to hire people. Her full-time job is bringing people into the business. And it's a fact that I'm very proud of, that we continue to invest in the team, we continue to invest in people, and our staff churn rates are incredibly low. Again, something we're very proud of as a senior team, that when people join 6 Degrees, they tend not to leave. There's a couple of exceptions where we encourage people to leave, but that's a different story. We've got very strong, robust funding. We're backed by a private equity firm called Penta Capital through 2 different companies now. I've worked for Penta effectively for the last 7 years. The senior partner of Penta sits on our board. There's 2 partners there. Penta invested £50 million over the last year. We've got a banking facility in place with Clydesdale Bank, which is £25 million, and we're currently looking to increase that with a couple of banks. I'd happily go into the detail of that financing with anybody who's interested, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that we have got very strong, firm, long-term funding from investors and from bankers who are keen to continue to back the company. And again, I think that's a message that you as customers and as partners need to know. And finally, the organic growth. It's a very important point in that it's very easy to buy a few companies, to bang them together, to hope for the best. But corporate history is littered with failures of companies who go through that M&A phase don't integrate them properly, don't have any organic growth. It's all about just putting companies together. So if you take acquisitions out of the frame completely and you compare like for like last year with this year, the business has grown 15% at the top line in a fairly challenging economic environment. That puts us amongst the best performers in the UK. And another point that's linked to that organic growth, that is net of churn. So churn is one of those key statistics that investment bankers and the private equity guys are constantly looking at. How much of your revenue year in, year out is lost out at the bottom end? Now, there's some companies who are acquiring, so if you imagine they've sort of got the tap on the bath, lots of things coming in, but the plug's out the bottom and it's going out quicker than it's coming in because the churn rates are so high. And typically in our sector, churn rates, the amount of revenue that you lose each year from customers is about mid-teens, so anything between 12 and 18% churn rates are typical. We've just done some analysis, and our churn rate at the moment is 3.5%. And it's probably the right time, therefore, to say thank you to you guys as our customers for sticking with us, for being loyal with us. It is one of the lowest churn rates in the country, and the 6 Degrees people I know are very proud of that. It's something we keep an eye on. The moment that starts to creep up, that you as our customers are starting to become dissatisfied with us, that'll ring alarm bells for us. We'll be very concerned about it. So again, slightly off message in terms of what the subject matter was today, but I hope you found that helpful just to get a flavour of what 6 Degrees looks like. I'm not going to dwell on this for too long. I think that the key point I want to make here is over on the left-hand side there in terms of the core assets that we've got, which slightly differentiates us from some other players in the market. And what you'll notice there is it spans co-location. You've got the data centre side, you've got the networking with the MPLS and the interconnect. You've got the cloud side with the virtual servers and also the voice switching and the IP capability there. We've put all of those pieces together, which is something I'm going to come on to on a slide in a second, which allows us over on the right-hand side to offer those solutions via those access technologies in the middle. When we sat down with our blank sheet of paper a couple of years ago, this is what we had in mind, particularly down those core assets on the left-hand side. That gives us a level of control that others might not have because we control those assets. And despite our very short history as an integrated unit, we've already won a couple of awards. It's good for our staff to have some recognition, I think, for the progress that they've made. And again, I hope good for our customers to see that we're being recognised in the industry as leaders in some of those fields. We are, I'm not going to go through all of these in detail. We're in the process, in fact, we're coming to the end of a process of investing £3 million in infrastructure at the moment. Again, when things are slightly tough economically, it's not something that everybody is doing. We're writing pretty lumpy checks in terms of our next generation network, our cloud platform, and our voice switching capabilities. And I suppose that's why I mentioned earlier on in terms of our profitability, because it's only that level of profitability that enables us to invest in this sort of infrastructure. And briefly, just a couple of slides to finish. This is the world of service providers that I worked in even only 3 or 4 years ago. As a customer, and you guys will know this better than I do, you would typically have different suppliers for all of those areas. I'll just tell you very briefly about a meeting I had almost exactly a year ago. It was with a Premiership football club, and I came into the process fairly late. And I met the IT director there, who is ex-Deloitte. He'd been in post for about 3 or 4 months, and he shared some of his findings with us from his first few months. I remember sitting there, and he said, you won't believe how many suppliers I've got across my ICT base. 68. So a Premiership football club is pretty much a mid-market corporate. Great brand, but actually, as a company, they're not that huge. 68 suppliers across his ICT base. His view that he had to consolidate that, both for cost benefit and both for ease of management. But his key point was that the network now allows for that consolidation like it hasn't done at any point in the past. We were up against the main incumbent in the UK and another small operator. Now, the fact is that a BT can offer the range of services that we can there. Whether they can offer it in the same integrated manner that we can just at the moment, I suppose, is up for question. But typically, mid-market customers, we found, don't normally prefer to buy from the incumbents, from the really big boys. There's a sense that they won't get that level of customer service that they will from a smaller company. His point was BT are in there to give a price point for us to give us a different option. they would prefer to buy from a smaller company. Interestingly, the other company that we're up against, so there were three of us, there's ourselves, BT, and another small company, all they did was the connectivity piece there. At that stage, the piece of work that the football club were tendering for was for data centres and connectivity. If the other party wanted to do the data centre piece outside London, they'd have to come and buy it from someone like us. What the IT director also said was that beyond this phase, I want to start looking at SIP. I want to start thinking about whether my call control should sit in that same data centre, run over the same network. If the other smaller player, our size, wanted to offer that, they'd have to come and buy it from someone like us. It wasn't a solution that they offered. So we won that piece of work. It was nearly £1 million deal. It'll grow to over £1 million. I still remember Dan Campbell and I coming out of that meeting, standing on the pavement, looking at each other thinking, that's what 6 Degrees is all about. It's a case study in why we've put 6 Degrees together. So this is our view of service providers of the future, or service providers of the present, in terms of what we've put together. And it's our very strong view that if you were in my position a couple of years ago, sitting there with that blank sheet of paper, saying, let's raise some money and put together a service provider that will have longevity, that's what you come up with. I just don't believe that you go pure play anymore. Technology has moved on, both from the network side of things and also the virtualization side of things. That means that that is no longer appropriate. That's not to say that customers will buy the full range of services from us, and if you're buying one service from us and that's all you ever want to buy, we're perfectly content with that, and you will not find us coming to bash on your door to force anything down your throat. The time comes, it seems, in a lot of mid-market customers' development, that this feels more appropriate. Why doesn't the call control sit in a data center now and run over the same network as the apps that sit in the data center or sit in the cloud in a resilient architecture? The point I wanted to make was this is the sort of architecture, this is the sort of infrastructure that will facilitate that if it does happen, and we want to be positioned for that. Thank you very much.